No, Brett Yormark is not leaving the Big 12, at least not as far as I know. But also know I did not clickbait you with my thumbnail, because we are indeed going to talk about the word bye in this video. But instead, we're talking about buys as far as the college football playoff is concerned. That's right. In this show, we're going to talk about the Big 12 and how they may get screwed out of future buys in future college football playoff from 2026 on, maybe even 2025. And we're going to do it in this show, which is brought to you by Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, and BetUS Online. Thank you for joining the show. This was kind of a impromptu pop-up live show that I decided to do. I haven't done a live show this week, so here we are. Thank you all for joining. If you're watching on X, I ask that you please come over to my YouTube channel and check out Couz's Corner once the show's over. If you have not done so, and subscribe, hit thumbs up button, do all those things. It all helps that algorithm. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can do those things right now. Before we get into the show, though, and talk about an article from Ross Dellenger and talk about this bye conversation as far as the college football playoff is concerned and how the Big 12 is impacted, I'm going to have to give a shout out to one of my sponsors and thank them for helping keep the lights on. So I will be right back. Since 1931, the attorneys at Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians, because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. Thank you for being patient and letting me get through the housekeeping and helping me keep the lights on. And thanks again to Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, your personal injury or medical malpractice attorney in Virginia and West Virginia. Now, let's go ahead and jump into today's show. Thank you for those who are joining the chat so far and who are watching so far. Shout out to Patrick Nelson and WVU World who are in the chat as we speak. Now, Ross Dellenger put an article out today that is very interesting. It's regarding the college football playoff, the future format. And it says, why college football playoff seeding format is unlikely to change next season. It's structured. I'm not going to try to read this whole thing to you. I will hit some quotes, but it basically revolves around, if you go back to December, there was a lot of complaining about, after the first round games of the college football playoff, a lot of complaining about blowout games and how certain teams shouldn't have got certain seeds, how some teams shouldn't have been in over other teams, and yada, yada, yada. And it was mainly people from the SEC side of things complaining, for the most part. People like Paul Feinbaum and others. And I did shows on it. A lot of people did shows on it. We're not going to rehash that necessarily, but that is important because it's part of this conversation. And it's part of why they're meeting. There's a meeting coming up between the Big 12, between the conference commissioners who are in charge of the college football playoff formatting going forward. And they actually are wanting to have a conversation, or planning to have a conversation about the format in 2025, next season. Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, others want to have this conversation now about 2025, not 2026 and beyond when the new contract kicks in, but actually next year. And apparently they want to have this conversation because they didn't get their way. The SEC didn't get their way. They didn't get to dominate everybody like they normally do. Sorry, SEC, you had a bad year. Go cry in a corner somewhere, Greg Sankey. Your conference is still awesome. You still have some of the best teams in America. You're still making a shit ton of money. I'm not sure why you continue to complain. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent. That's not why I'm here. And I know my buddy Outlaw College Football is probably already planning to do a video to go after me. But who cares? Anyway, they're planning to meet to talk about the future of the format in 2025. But in order to make a change by next year, it requires unanimity. So all 11 members of the CFP Management Committee, the 10 FBS commissioners, and Notre Dame's athletic director would all have to be in agreement in order for there to be a change. And it says commissioners of the Big 12 and Mountain West, the chief benefactors of the bye rule this year, as well as the ACC, say they are open to discussing the matter, but express skepticism in making changes so soon into this version of the expanded playoff. They're like, look, it's only been a year, man. What are we doing here? I'll hear what you have to say. I'm open, but there's not the likelihood of this passing is very slim. And let's hear what Brett Yormark had to say. I think these are some very, very telling statements in this article. Here's Brett Yormark. He says, I'm open to a healthy discussion on the topic. I certainly have a point of view that will be expressed in the room, but I do not have the appetite to give up any financial reward that comes with a bye, end quote. And what's that financial reward? Well, it says there's a sizable financial incentive tethered to those receiving a first-round bye, $8 million. Teams advancing to the playoff each receive $4 million. Those playing in quarterfinals, the 4 first-round winners and the 4 top seeds, receive another $4 million. So when you get a bye, you automatically get the $4 million for the first round, and you automatically get the $4 million for advancing to the second round. So, of course, why would the Big 12 and or the ACC or the G5s want to give that up? They don't. So the likelihood of them agreeing with this is not going to happen unless the SEC and Big 10 decides to give them something in return. Maybe they can make a compromise here. Who knows? Would the SEC and Big 10 be willing to give up some power maybe in future years when it comes to the college football playoff? Maybe they give up some future power. I don't know. I doubt it, though. I doubt it. And here's what Mountain West Commissioner Gloria Navarez had to say. She basically said that changes after 1 year of data, quote, seem a bit quick, end quote. She thinks it's too early to already be trying to make changes after just 1 year. Next year the SEC could go out and dominate and get a first round bye and get 4 teams in the playoff. It's very possible. So anyway, it says ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips referred to similar professional playoff formats. He basically went on to talk about how the NFL rewards their teams for winning the division. And it's a division winner who gets the number 1 seed and the bye in the first round. And at one time, before they added the team to the playoffs, 2 teams in the NFL used to get a bye. It was the 2 division winners with the best record got a bye in the first round. They added another wild card team, so now there's only 1 bye in the first round, and it goes to the division winner with the best record. So winning your division, and in this case in college football, winning your conference, needs to mean something. And I think that's what they're trying to convey here. And again, we're also talking financially here. The Big 12 and ACC, and especially the G5, are already way behind the SEC and Big 10. Why would they be willing to give up even more money? That would be crazy, in my opinion. Unless, again, there is something more beneficial that you can get in return. It says, as reported by Yahoo Sports on December 10th, the Big 10 and SEC are poised to at least introduce a discussion about seeding the field based on the alignment of the rankings and eliminate the bye rule. If that happened this season, the top 4 seeds would have been number 1, Oregon, number 2, Georgia, number 3, Texas, and number 4, Penn State. Arizona State, the number 4 seed in the current format as Big 12 champions, would have been seeded 12th. Boise State, the number 3 seed this year, would have been seeded 9th. The 8-9 game would have featured Boise State, Indiana, instead of Ohio State, Tennessee, for instance. Yeah, I'd have watched that game. That'd have been a good football game. But nonetheless, I understand them not wanting to give up that money, and I also understand them not wanting to jump, and make a change after 1 year. Because we know how sports is. It's cyclical. Again, the SEC might dominate next year. The SEC champion's always going to get a bye. But what the SEC and Big 10 are seeing here is an opportunity to get 2 teams in, or 2 teams with a bye. And if in 2026 and beyond, if they want to do that, if they want to negotiate that, then that's fine. It looks like they're already going down that path. But why do you need to do it already in year 2? Give me a break, man. Come on. Let's let the thing breathe a little bit. And then in 2026, if you want to throw your weight around a little bit and try to do that, then that's fine. But it's too early to be doing that right now. So the chances of Yormark and Phillips and Navarez and others giving into this is probably slim to none. Here's what Tony Petitti thinks. He says, once the field is set, we need to discuss how it should be seeded. I think some of this year's matchups and the round in which they occur to make that conversation necessary. Why? Why does it make it necessary? Because you think the teams in your conference, they have poop that don't stink. That's what you think, Tony Petitti. You think Arizona State, Boise State, and these other teams don't deserve a bye. I think Arizona State proves that they deserve to be on the field with the SEC champion. What do you think? And I know Texas wasn't the SEC champion, so I may have spoke out of turn there, but I think you see what I'm saying. Texas ended up being the SEC team to make it the furthest in the CFP. And Arizona State was that close to beating them. So you tell me that Arizona State don't belong. Because I think they proved that they do. I think they proved that they do. So anyway, I could go on about that forever. So anyway, just the continued bullying, and I don't, bullying's not the right word. The Big Ten and SEC just continue to try to throw their weight around. And I know that's who they work for. They work for the schools in their league. That's what they're paid to do. So I'm not necessarily saying they're doing the wrong thing. But this is not what college sports was supposed to be about. There's supposed to be some equity. There's supposed to be some, and I'm not talking about that kind of equity, but you see what I mean. There's supposed to be some parity. That has gone out the window. They're not even attempting it anymore. I mean, they're not even attempting to have parity anymore. So anyway, it says commissioners meet on Sunday here at the site of Monday's national title game between Notre Dame and Ohio State. However, the meeting is only scheduled for 90 minutes and is followed by another 90-minute meeting of the CFP Board of Managers, the entity's highest-ranking governance group made up of one university president from each FBS conference and Notre Dame. They're also planning to meet again in February, and that meeting may allow more discussion on the format. So anyway, I think that's probably enough reading here. Dellenger does point out another story he wrote on December 23rd, exploring playoff changes, governance, and future formats, which includes a Big Ten proposal to grant multiple automatic qualifiers to a single conference. A proposal originally tabled last spring. So anyway, that's the gist of it. So the SEC and Big Ten want to sit down and talk about a format for 2025 because they weren't happy with the way it turned out because it didn't benefit them as much as they would have liked. That's the gist of it. They want to set it up to where they get all the good stuff. They get the meal, they get the food, they get the bread, and they're going to leave the crumbs for the Big 12 and the ACC and everybody else. That's their mindset right now. And it's absolutely destroying college sports, and they don't give a damn. And it pisses me off. And I'm sorry. I don't normally cuss, but this irritates me. The comments they make are arrogant. They're not looking out for the betterment of college athletics. You know, Greg Sankey one time made the comment, well, this is not what it was set out to be. At one time we had 5 equitable conferences and yada, yada, yada. You know why you don't have 5 equitable conferences? Because you took Texas and Oklahoma into your league and changed everything. So do not come at me with your BS. Had that not happened, we probably wouldn't be having any of these conversations, because then the Big Ten felt the need to react. So they went out and got USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington. Then the Big 12 had to, they got the teams that had to get out of the Big Pac-12 before it died because of those moves. And it just created a huge snowball. So Greg Sankey, to me, should keep his trap shut. And Tony Petitti is just as bad. He doesn't come out. He's not out in front of this as much. He's not out in front of the media as much. But when he speaks too, a bunch of gibberish comes out of his friggin' mouth. But anyway, what's up, guys? I thank you for joining the chat. I know I've got some SEC people in here probably pissed off at me. Stripe says, say whatever you want to say. The SEC was embarrassing itself this season, and there is absolutely and positively no guarantee that any team will advance into the NCAA football championship tournament. Stripes, I think you agree with me. Thank you. David Cummings, who's a VIP member here, says, all we can hope for is Notre Dame wins, and neither conference wins a national championship, and Notre Dame plays an ACC schedule, so let's hope for the best. Yeah, David, that's a great point. Look, I've never been a Notre Dame fan, but right now, number one, I love Marcus Freeman as a coach. I think he's a super guy. I think he's an excellent coach. I love the way he handles himself. I love the way he handles his players, the way he coaches them up. So I'm rooting for Notre Dame this weekend, or Monday night, rather. I hope the Irish pull it off, man. I really do. And I'm not, like I said, I don't like Notre Dame, but I like Ohio State even less. Gamecock Chuck, who's an SEC guy in the house, he says, I was pulling for Arizona State in that game. I'm not an SEC homer. If you ain't South Carolina, I ain't pulling for you. Gamecock Chuck, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And I know you have a lot of respect for West Virginia. And there are a lot of SEC fans who respect the sanctity of college football and want everybody to have a fair shot. But unfortunately, we live in a world now where that's just not the case. It's just they've turned it into the haves and the have-nots. And all the leadership in college athletics is to blame for it. Appalachia Africa Twin says, it doesn't matter, Couz, next year all that changes with the changes in Morgantown. WVU and Big 12 will take that respect. I hope so, brother. I hope West Virginia earns some respect. Stripes thinks the game between Texas and ASU was fixed. Yeah, I'm not going to go that far. I don't think it was fixed, but I do think that Arizona State, had chances to win the game, in my opinion, and they just couldn't make the plays when they needed to. But, man, they showed they could compete, in my opinion. Outlaw College Football, channel member here, says SEC has small 2-year window, lull, and some of you are so sad in your gleeful spastic celebrations. SEC has still won more titles by far, and I think I acknowledge that, or at least I try to. The SEC isn't the one that got 4. SEC had only 3. Who had 4? The Big Ten. And the Big Ten also, Tony Petitti running his trap too. Yada, yada, yada. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. I'm getting to the point. I'm so sick of the Big Ten and Outlaw your SEC that it's making me want to just them go off and do their own friggin' thing, man. I know that probably wouldn't be healthy for the Big 12 and my school to West Virginia not to be affiliated with those 2 leagues, and I'm sure that probably won't happen. But it gets so frustrating to hear them continually put down the other leagues. Even little subtle jabs like Tony Petitti. I'm going to read that comment again. Listen to this little jab he takes at other schools. He says, let me find it here. Let's see. Once the field is set, we need to discuss how it should be seeded. I think some of this year's matchups and the round in which they occurred make that conversation necessary. Come on, man. No respect for the Big 12. No respect for the Group of 5. No respect for the ACC, probably, in his comments. I'd be okay if the Big 12 and ACC told Big 10 and the SEC to kick rocks, and we'll do our own thing, and you guys do your own thing, and we'll each crown our own champion. Sayonara, sucker. I'm getting to that point, man. I really am. It's frustrating. I've acknowledged the SEC has won more national titles. They've been dominant. Up until the last couple of years, they've been dominant. I acknowledge that. LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia have all won national titles. Maybe there's one more in there that I'm missing. Auburn, Georgia, LSU, Alabama. Anyway, if I am, I apologize. But nonetheless, they dominated. I get it. But they haven't the last 2 years. Maybe the worm's turning and the Big Ten's going to start dominating. Maybe the worm will turn at some point and the Big 12 will start winning again. Who knows? Or the ACC. Clemson's had their run. Florida State had a title. So ACC's had their time in the sun as well. I just get tired of the Big Ten and SEC acting like these other schools can't compete with them. Because they have. Do they do it year in, year out? No. But in one game, anybody can win. And I think that's what the SEC and Big Ten realize. They're like, man, they know that they're in danger of not getting their top teams in the national title game. And they're trying to change the rules to prevent that from happening. Stormy Cyclone says all those with all the gold make the rules. Hopefully the price of gold bottoms out. Lonnie Johansson, thank you. Has been a VIP member here for 5 months. Says go BYU and Big 12. Lonnie Johansson, thank you for the continued support of what I'm doing here. I also have a super chat, I think. Nope, that was it. Thank you, Lonnie. Outlaw of College Football says, why are y'all not mad at the ACC for getting 2 teams in because SMU couldn't handle its business? The SEC got punished for the ACC, so how are we getting favoritism? I don't think you are getting favoritism. I think your conference wants your commissioner wants favoritism. That's what I think. That's what I think. I don't think that necessarily you got it, but I think they're trying to get it and they want it, and they're trying to change the rules to get it in their favor. When it's already been changed to their favor. Look at the format 2026 forward. Or not the format, but the payout. They're going to get a higher percentage of the payout. So it's already going to be formatted and structured in a way that favors the SEC and the Big Ten. But it's like they want their cake and they want to eat it too. You know, I just get tired of it, man. As most of us who are fans of schools outside of those two leagues are sick and tired of it. And maybe it's sour grapes. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it, I don't really care. But I'm tired of it. And I think most of us are. Jake T, thank you so much, my man. Gifted 10 Couz's Corner memberships. That is awesome. If I had a sound machine, I'd hit the clap button or whatever that other guys do. But, man, that is so awesome. I really appreciate you doing that. I wish there was a way for me to tell who got those. I don't know how to do that. So I really appreciate you gifting those memberships. If you got one of those gifted memberships, be sure to thank Jake T. And I hope you can take advantage of the perks, the early videos and stuff that I put out. Sometimes I put them out also with no ads in the middle. I will do that occasionally as well. Lonnie Johansson also drops a $5 donation. Lonnie, thank you so much. David Cummings in the house says, didn't Alabama lose to 6-6 Michigan team, Outlaw? That's a fair question. That is a very fair question. All right. Now let's talk about let me see what other comments we got here, and then we'll talk about some college football chaos that's happening. Scotty Rosenkrantz in the house, Robert Rice, Patrick Nelson, Bill Mulder. Bill Mulder, that's right. They're the Big Ten SEC squeezing everyone else out. Absolutely right. Raven, they are wanting to change they're wanting to do away with the conference champions getting the first round buys in the college football playoff. They're basically wanting the automatic buys to go to the top ranked teams instead of the conference champions. At least that's the way I interpret it, which means it would be basically all Big Ten and SEC schools. Here's what would be funny. If they don't change it, maybe it wouldn't be funny. I don't know. If they don't change it, or let's just say they do change it. Let's say they do change it. Let's say there's an agreement and they change it. And then next year, you get an ACC and a Big 12 team ranked in the top 4. That would be awesome. And then they'd be wanting to change it back, wouldn't they? Oh, man. Anyway. Stripes says, excuse me for just one moment. The Big Ten has one team, Ohio State, and the SEC did not have anyone going into the NCAA championship game. You are absolutely right, Stripes. Patrick Nelson, you got a great point. Those buys make you – why does everybody want – the commissioners want it because of the money that comes into the league. You automatically get that $4 million for advancing – extra $4 million for advancing to the second round. Doesn't mean your team's going to win, though, is the problem. And as we saw this year, the teams with the buys all lost their games. All 4 teams who had a bye lost their first-round game. Or their second-round game, technically. So it's not necessarily all it's cracked up to be, right? All right. Outlaw says, we should get 4 if the Big Stank gets 4. We deserve more because we earned it over this century, 14 out of 24. I don't think it should be based on what you did 10 years ago. It should be based on what you did this year, not last year, not the year before. Because, like I said, it can be cyclical. Things can change. I do acknowledge that the SEC has been the most dominant league in college football. But, again, it could be changing. I think NIL's changing it some because most of the Big Ten programs have more money than a lot of the SEC programs do, whether we like it or not. The Ohio States, the Michigans are going to have more money than Mississippi State, maybe even Alabama. I don't know. I don't know how much NIL money Alabama has. They're not Texas or Texas A&M for sure. But point being, there are some very, very wealthy Big Ten teams who may buy their way in to college football playoff every year because that's just the name of the game these days. All right. Before we get into the next topic, I want to give a quick shout out to my other sponsor, BetUS Online. Right now, if you are looking to place a bet and you are looking for a brand new sports book, on your very first deposit, you get 150% sign-up bonus with promo code YouTube150 at BetUS. You get a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to a grand total of $2,000. Again, promo code YouTube150 gets you 150% sign-up bonus at BetUS.com. Be sure to play responsibly if you do play, which means don't be gambling away your mortgage. Also, remember that you must be 18, and if you or anyone you know has a gambling problem, go to 1-800-GAMBLER.com and get some help, please. Now, second topic of the show, college football chaos. There's chaos all around when it comes to transfer portal, when it comes to NIL payments, all this. Let's just talk about that for a minute. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because it's kind of convoluted and there's a lot of legal jargon and a lot of mumbo jumbo that I really don't want to dig into too deep, but let's just talk about the basics. Basically, yesterday or last night, there was a piece came out, I think it was by Ross Dellenger, that talked about how the Department of Education has now laid down a ruling that says these revenue sharing payments from schools that are going to start, that would be part of this House settlement that's supposed to start next year, those have to apply with Title IX. What does that mean? Well, it means these schools who are planning on paying out 75% of the rev share money to their football teams would not be able to do it. They would have to split that money basically even with the female athletes, even though the female athletes aren't bringing in as much revenue. So now today, let me see if I can find this. Today, there's a new ruling came out by the Department of Justice. Let me see if I can find this one. Let me find it here because there's been other news come out since then. This stuff's dropping like crazy today, the last 2 days. Here it goes. The U.S. Department of, and this is shared by Ross Dellenger, originally from Sam Ehrlich, who is he's an assistant professor at Boise State, COBE, ex-lawyer who now writes about college sports law and finds it neat. Same username over on the other Blue Sky. Okay. So he's a lawyer who likes to write about sports law. So he says the U.S. Department of Justice has filed a statement of interest in House versus NCAA, expressing concerns that the settlement, quote, may not cure the ill effects of the illegal conduct, end quote, as it, quote, allows the NCAA, ... to continue fixing the amount schools can pay for NIL. So now they're saying that it's illegal. The way the House settlement is written may be illegal because they're still capping payments to athletes. When does it end, man? When does this stuff end? Now, here's the kicker, though. A lot of experts believe, or I don't know if they're experts, but analysts, if you want to call it that, writers, analysts, even some on the legal side, think that with the new administration coming in a few days, this is not going to matter because they're going to be more friendly towards the NCAA, and they think that this Department of Justice thing that came down today and even the Department of Education thing that came out yesterday will all be basically null and voided by the next administration. And that's very, very possible. As a matter of fact, Ted Couz, who's he's over some committee. I can't think of the name of the committee that oversees these types of rulings and stuff in the Senate. He's basically already come out against what the Department of Education said yesterday. So there's going to be a little bit of a battle here. At the end of the day, I think these are political statements being made by certain sides. Before one side gets out of the White House, they're trying to make a statement. So here's the way things should happen. And they're trying, but the new administration comes in and they're going to try to change it back the way they want it, which again would be more friendly, a little more friendly towards the NCAA. So again, it's a lot of political maneuvering here. I think people trying to make political statements, trying to make themselves look good on the way out, or in some cases on the way in. At the end of the day, I still think the House settlement will likely pass. Now, could there be some tweaks to it along the way? Absolutely. But I do think the House settlement will end up passing as written. Now, let's talk about something else that's crazy. Okay. It just came out right as I was getting ready for this show. And again, Ross Dellenger. Ross is always on top of this stuff, man. Kudos to that guy. One of the best in the business. He says, new and a precedent-setting move that may spark landmark legal action among schools, Wisconsin DB Xavier Lucas, who signed a rev share deal with University of Wisconsin, is transferring to Miami. His attorney at Darren Heitner tells Yahoo Sports. University of Wisconsin refused to enter him into the portal. It says Lucas signed a 2-year contract with Wisconsin, a Big Ten document contingent on House approval, granting school his NIL rights while prohibiting other schools from those rights, sources tell Yahoo Sports. A legal showdown, Wisconsin in the Big Ten versus Miami, awaits. Ross goes on to say in another tweet, the situation may set precedent in 2 ways. 1, a school's enforcement of settlement contingent rev share contracts. And 2, a player transferring at any time, even outside of the windows, if he or she withdraws. Clear now more than ever, the portal is unenforceable. So this could be opening up Pandora's box to where players could be able to transfer anytime they want to any school they want, regardless of what type of contract they sign. Now this to me, if they have got Senate, Congress, whoever, they have got to figure out a way to do collective bargaining with student athletes. That is the only way you fix all of this chaos. You have to collectively bargain all of this, even the House settlement. There will be people file suits because they don't like the way the House settlement only affects a certain range of athletes. Like, for example, I don't know what the statute of limitations is, how far it goes back, but students outside of that may file suit. You might have female athletes filing suit because they feel like they deserve more of the money. I mean, there's going to be all of these things, assuming this Department of Education thing doesn't get enforced. There's so many things that could lead to lawsuits in all of this, even if House passes. It's not going to prevent people from filing lawsuits. So until athletes and the schools or the conferences, however you want to do it, until they can sit down at a bargaining table and work all of this out together amongst themselves and everybody come to an agreement, this is just going to continue, man. It's going to absolutely continue. It's going to be complete chaos. Players are going to be transferring whenever they want. Teams are going to be poaching players from teams in the middle of seasons. You're going to have, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be absolutely nuts. And then, again, with the House settlement stuff, how can you expect a school to pay out half of their revenue to athletes who aren't bringing in revenue? How is that? How does that make any sense? It doesn't to me. This is America, man. We're built on capitalism. And if you want to treat, and I know schools aren't supposed to be businesses, but that's what they've turned them into. The NCAA, the coaches, the conferences, all these leaders have, because of their own stupid decisions or lack of decisions in some cases, have created a monster. They've created this monster. Now it's time to fix it. It's time to fix it. The only way you do it is you sit down at the bargaining table with the athletes. It's the only way you can do it. And I don't know that you can do that without making them employees. Maybe you can, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I think college football needs to just go out and do its own. I think college football needs to break away from the NCAA, do its own thing, man. Leave basketball, baseball, volleyball, swimming, gymnastics, track, all the other sports. Leave them all under the NCAA umbrella. But move away from it in football, because that is where most of the money's coming in. The problem with that is football is what feeds the other programs. The other programs don't exist without football. So there has to be a solution, though, to this thing. And the cooler heads need to prevail. They all need to get in a room together, sit down and figure this friggin' thing out, because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Everybody's always wanting to sue somebody. It's ridiculous. Too many lawsuits flying around. The only people coming out ahead in this thing are the attorneys. They're making bank on this stuff, man. They're making bank. And at the end of the day, it's hurting the student athletes. It's hurting the schools in some cases. And it's, and even though we're not personally affected by it as fans, it kind of hurts the product we're wanting to consume, right? So anyway, that's my rant. That is my 2 cents, whatever you want to call it, on these issues. Now let's get to some more comments. We've got Big Dan T in the house, another VIP member. He says, a comprehensive bill and judgment from the Supreme Court is what it will take because of the appeal power. It's another great point, Big Dan T. This is most of these issues are probably going to end up at the Supreme Court at some point. And maybe, like he said, maybe they just need to have a comprehensive bill and judgment to fix it all. The settlement in June, I assume you're talking about the House settlement. Yeah, the House versus NCAA is where they're going to have to start paying revenue sharing to the athletes, bagmen, and each school is going to pay out up to, if they choose to participate, pay out up to $20.5 million total to their student athletes, and they were going to divide that money evenly, or not evenly, but divide it based on who brought in the most revenue. So football would get like 75%, men's basketball would get a little bit smaller cut for women's basketball, and then they would take the rest of it and divide it out amongst the other sports. But according to this Department of Education ruling that came out yesterday, they're trying to say that's not legal, because if the school's paying them, even though it's NIL, even because it's coming from the school, a state institution or educational institution, whatever, that it has to abide by Title IX and be divided evenly, even though it's NIL money. And a lot of it's going to be coming from donors. It's being funneled through the university, so it's considered educational benefits or whatever they call it, whatever the terminology is. Outlaw College Football says, I'm thinking about going to the NFL as a fan because at least it has some rules that seem somewhat fair. Responsible contracts and no tampering. Outlaw, that's a very, very fair comment, brother. And I think a lot of people may be where you are. Stanley Metz Jr. says solutions are simple, just too much money and power consolidated by a few at the top. Like somebody said earlier in the chat, those with the most gold make the rules, right? See what other Outlaw says Georgia just won back-to-back 2 years ago. Correct, they did. Patrick Nelson says it's hard to keep college kids focused. That break over the holidays has to distract them. Very fair. Again, reminder, guys, if you're watching on X after the show's over, please come over to my YouTube channel and subscribe. I'm on the country roads are leading me to 10K, baby, but I need your help to get there. Also, come check out my basketball channel, Hoops from the Hills. I'm covering West Virginia basketball there all season long. I did a show yesterday where I recapped West Virginia's loss to Houston, and then in the second half of the show, I previewed the upcoming game against Iowa State, did my score prediction, the whole bit. So come check that out if you don't care, if you're into that kind of stuff. Anyway, Sandusky, Ohio Bro says, do you think West Virginia will be next season's Indiana? It's possible, but I'm not going to, I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, as they say here in West Virginia. It's possible, but I'm not going to predict it. I need to see more. I got to see it first, Bagman says, I want my school to pay football 85 to 90% of the revenue share. Yeah, I think most schools are planning to do something like that, at least 75% or so. But, the Department of Education is trying to say you can't do that. But like I said, with a new administration's coming in, most of these things are probably going to get killed or nixed or vetoed or whatever word is you want to use. It's probably not going to happen. What's up, John Christophic? Thanks for joining the show, man. Stephen Vitt says, in any business, if you sign a contract, you should be legally bound by that contract. If players are free to go anytime, even after signing a contract, then what's the point? Exactly, Stephen. Exactly. I'm tired of, and I see all these comments. And there was even one comment on X about this topic saying, well, if coaches can leave anytime, they're not bound to contracts. Why should players be? Coaches are bound to contracts. It's called a buyout. If a coach leaves before his contract's up, he normally pays the school a buyout. Now, if the school negotiated it too low of a buyout, that's their fault. That's their problem. But they're still bound to pay one. So players need to do something like that too. If they want to sign a contract, if you leave a school, if you're under a 1-year NIL deal, a rev sharing deal, whatever, if you are under a 1-year deal and you leave that school before a year's up, or before you fulfill your NIL obligations or whatever it is, then you should pay back a portion of the money. And that should be written into the contract. You should, if you're a football player, and let's just say you're making $1 million for 1 year and you leave in 8 months, then you need to pay back 2/3 of the money. Or I'm sorry, 1/3 of the money. Because you only fulfilled 2/3 of your obligation. It's that simple. I don't know, man. It just, it irritates me. The way everything, it's just complete chaos. Like Outlaw said, at least the NFL has rules and there's guardrails around everything, to where college football is just total chaos. Donald, what's up? He says, Couz, I will be pulling for the game clock to run out quick and no team scores in 10+ overtimes. I can't pull for either team. Yeah, Donald, man, I don't like either team. What's the proper grammar? I can't say either twice. Neither do I like either team. Is that right? Anyway, who cares? I live in West Virginia. I don't use proper grammar, but I don't like either team, Donald, but I'm, like I said earlier in the show, I don't know if you were here yet, but I like Marcus Freeman. I love the way he coaches his players. He's a respectful guy. I just like the way he carries himself. He carries himself with class and integrity, respect, says things the right way. He doesn't let, the media take him down certain political paths that they try to get him down. All of those types of things, and I respect that about him. So I'm cheering for Notre Dame because of him, and because I probably hate Ohio State more than I do Notre Dame, just to be honest. John Kristofic with perfect attendance on Couz's Corner and Outlaw of College Football. Woo! Yep, John is a loyal man. John is very loyal. Love me some John Kristofic. All right, most of you guys in here and gals are loyal. Raven, I've been seeing you a lot. I really appreciate your support. I don't know if you're a West Virginia fan or not, because I see you in a lot of my West Virginia shows as well. Not much West Virginia on this show today, but I'll have some more of that coming soon, hopefully. Bagman says, I know your second team is OU, don't lie. Bagman, sorry to disappoint you, brother, but that's not the case. I have a lot of respect for OU, though. I do. They're an awesome program. They're top 6 or 7 all time in wins. They've done it, man. They've walked the walk and they've talked the talk. So I do respect them, but don't necessarily like them. Raven says she loves all of college football. Sherry actually asked for a second shot. He must be referring to another comment in the Timothy Akers. That's a name I don't remember seeing for a while. College football is just scared that West Virginia got a really good football team now. Timothy, I hope you're right. I hope you are right. I know that the outsiders, a lot of the analysts from the national media don't think West Virginia's portal class is very good. I will hopefully do a video on that at some point. I'm trying to wait for the portal class to get completed before I do a video, but we'll talk about that a little bit here, hopefully in the very near future. Luke 442 says, I love the West Virginia Mountaineers. Been a fan my entire life. Go Mounties. Let's go, baby. Stripe says Deion is not going to the Dallas Cowboys. He doesn't want to share the spotlight with Jerry Jones. I don't know that he would care to share the spotlight with Jerry Jones. I just think that in order for him to coach his sons, which is what he wants to do if he goes to the NFL, it'd be hard to pull that off, man. You'd have to trade up to get Shador. May even have to trade down to get Shiloh or make Manu. I don't know. It'd be complicated. And he does seem happy in Colorado, so we'll see. But if he does leave Dallas, or it does leave for Dallas, rather, he's going to make himself look like a hypocrite because, he just would. But I wouldn't be able to. It would be hard to fault him for wanting to coach his kids. But as a dad, I totally get it. But at the same time, he's going to take some criticism. But, I'm sure he doesn't care. He's been taking criticism his whole life. Some of it has been justified, just to be fair. Outlaw says, prediction, Rich Rod hire will be a game changer, not just for WVU, but Big 12 too. He's bringing the heat already. I know Outlaw is a big advocate for West Virginia hiring Rich Rod, and he's someone who has a lot of respect. Despite the times he and I have kind of punched each other in the gut a little bit, and I mean that as a metaphor, obviously, on our shows, we like to poke each other a little bit, but he's always had a lot of respect for West Virginia, and I like that. It makes me respect him And of course, I think we all respect Alabama and what they've accomplished. Joey Foster in the house. He says, howdy, everyone. I hope all are well and smash the like button. Thank you, Joey. Appreciate you, my brother. Please hit the like. If you're watching it live, and even if you're watching it on replay, the likes continue to help. I was looking at some analytics earlier. I'm not getting as many likes on my videos as I'm kind of at average or slightly below average on getting likes on videos. So if you guys could really hit the thumbs up button, it would really look at it. I got fireworks, baby. Holy cow. Woo. What's that mean? I don't know, but it's pretty cool. Let's do that again. My computer does that. I don't know. It's Apple. Go figure. But I like it. But yeah, hit those thumbs up. That thumbs up button really, really helps me. Really helps push the algorithm out or push my stuff into the algorithm, and YouTube will hopefully show it to more people. And at least a few of those people may like it, and they may hit the thumbs up button, and they may subscribe. And the next thing you know, I'm at 10,000, and it, bada bing, bada boom. Right. The heart shape with my hands. What's that do? I feel like Taylor Swift now. I'm not a Swiftie, I promise. Thank you, James. I appreciate you. Yeah, James, you're very loyal too, man. I see you commenting on videos. About everybody here. I don't want to call people out because almost everybody in this chat has been loyal to me. Many of you from the beginning. So I really appreciate that. But anyway, I'm going to jump off of here. It's Friday night. Probably going to find something. I don't know. Either go to a ball game, maybe local ball game, or hang out with the family. I'll do something. But nonetheless, I'm going to jump off of here. Got to grab some dinner. I really appreciate everybody tuning into the show. Oh, Raven. Cool comment. Says, my cousin played with Pat White. Pat McAfee, been a fan ever since. That's cool, Raven. That's cool. I think I remember you saying something similar on Paul's show the other day. That's really cool. But anyway, thanks to everybody for tuning into the show. Outlaw VIP says, this is Outlaw's words, not mine, but he says, con time Deion Sanders has yet to win any, as in 0 postseason games. Con man and his son, Sakazula Sanders. Well, Sakazula is going to be probably a first-round draft pick, Outlaw, whether we like it or not. He's extremely talented, a very good quarterback. And Deion, regardless of all the things he does that I don't like, has proved a lot of haters wrong, man. He took Colorado to, what they win, 10 games this year, I think. Pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. So anyway, a lot more than I thought they would win. I think I picked them to win 4. So I had to eat some crow. But they did lose out they won 9. Thank you. I also like Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter not only a great player, he also seems like a very fine young man, by the way. Not a huge fan of Shador and some of his antics. But Travis Hunter doesn't seem to be quite as out there as far as, flashing Rolexes and all that stuff like Shador does. Travis does not seem like that type of dude. So I like Travis. But anyway, I think he has a bright future, like Raven says. But let's go ahead and call this a night. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Another shout out to my sponsors, Katz Counter, Stone Street and Buckner, your personal injury and medical malpractice attorneys in West Virginia and Virginia, and BetUS Online, where if you're looking for a brand new sports book or an online casino, go check them out, betus.com. Thanks for everybody again. John Dry, I think I forgot to mention your name. Thank you for tuning in. Hope the rest of your night, day, whenever you're watching this, is top shelf. Q Country Roads.